Before we dive into using textures, we need to talk about color management and how our screens perceive the images in Blender and why color transform is important. While rendering is seen in order to display it on the monitor, it needs to be transformed in the process called color management, because the screen can't really show all the colors and maintain the same level of brightness we had in our scene. In this diagram, you can see the big shape showing the colors seen by us, humans, and the triangles that are representation of the different color transforms on displays. Most of them are not even close to covering the color range visible by the human eye. Most of the displays are sRGB, that's why it's a default option if we will go to the color management in render properties. If you're working on an Apple device, you should probably go with the Display P3 option. In a View Transform dropdown, you will find different transforms to view the image on the same display device, and the default one is AGX. All of them are working in the viewport, so let's see what will change when we switch these. Standard View Transform does not extra conversion besides the conversion for the display device. You can see how it clips the whites, so we are losing a lot of information in our render. Filmic is a tone mapping transfer made to handle high dynamic range colors, but it was replaced with AGX. Results of Filmic transform are very similar to AGX, but AGX is giving even more photorealistic results. It offers 16.5 stops of dynamic range and makes highly exposed colors less saturated to mimic film's natural response to light. We can also change the look of the transform, and it's like an artistic effect, and it roughly emulates the look of different film types. Filmic Lock might be used for inspecting the image as it's flattening out darks and light areas. False Color, which we used in the previous lesson, shows a heat map of image intensities to help with setting the proper exposure for a render. Raw Transform gives us the image without any color space conversion and should be used for inspecting the image, but not for final export. The Chronos PBR Neutral, as described by the Chronos group, is specifically designed to display 3D assets rendered using physically based rendering with true-to-life colors. So, the default display device is the color transform performed for correct display of renders, and View Transform is mostly an artistic choice to make. What about textures? Fortunately, when working with textures, the default color space is usually correct, like sRGB for base color. The texture on the left is just a render from the right viewport, and it can be used as base color map, and we see that indeed we have sRGB color space there. For some kind of textures like normal, displacement, or roughness maps, we need to change the type to non-color because they do not store colors but data that is encoded as colors. That's why we shouldn't be really saving our images with the Save As Render option, because we don't want to add any extra color transforms to our textures unless we're saving the EXR files to PNG or JPG in display space. When we are changing the Scene View transform, we don't see the transform being applied to the texture because it shouldn't really be transformed this way, but we can click the View As Render option and we see the texture with the transform applied. In the end, it is the artistic choice, but remember that making the color transform here and then exporting it to different editing software will cause loss of data, so it's better to leave it untouched and edit it somewhere else.